Alright YouTube, this is my layout. Most of the stuff is still packed up in boxes from the train show. But I'll be doing a separate one on locomotive and freight car roster. So you'll hopefully get to see that. But alright, here's the layout. Been working on it for about 5-6 months, I'd say. 4x8, split into two sections. Each one is 4x4 feet. It's out nowhere near complete, but it's enough I can do op sessions on it. Okay, so era is late steam early diesel, 1954, summer of 1954. And this layout depicts Logan, Ohio, which is on the Hocking Valley Railroad. I'm not going to go into detail about it because you can just type it in search engine, you'll pull up a website all about it, and it has the history and everything else. Doesn't have the locomotive roster on there, but anyways, Logan is halfway between Columbus and Athens, Ohio. And you just look that up on, Google Earth. But depicts Logan. So, era 1954. The theme, I guess you could say, is transition era with an emphasis on coal railroading, because there were 2 or 3 coal branches around Logan that had some of the richest deposits in the entire Ohio Valley, in that area around Logan and Athens. So the local traffic is mostly coal, and then there's overhead and general merchandise, some reefer, and some automobile traffic and the parts and stuff associated with that. So that's the era, the theme, and the location. I already started mentioning construction. 1x4s for both the legs and the frame. The legs are bolted, so they're all completely removable. All my track, well, not all of it, there's a couple pieces that I can cut. But track across the joints is all split off into sections. And what I've done is, I don't know if you can see it, but I've taken screws and I drill a hole in the road bed, then I put the screw down and I soldered the rail on top of it. So that basically serves to anchor it, along with a lot of glue on either side of the joint. You can see where we have the table going along the line right there. And then, of course, these are, of course, secured, and these aren't soldered together, so this turnout just moves away from the 2 on this side. Control is DCC, of course. Anybody that's done the new layout, if you know how to solder, you're not too bad at electronics. I don't see how you go without sound. I mean, just because then you got the horn, you got the whistle, the bell, and you can use all the signals for grade crossing, and all those little, all the little things that they use them for in real life. So it just adds a whole nother dimension to it. I only have one locomotive that's sound equipped, and that's the Mikado that was I took to Train Town a couple days ago. So, for now, I've got a couple others that have space for sound, so I'll get to it eventually. I also have JMRI on this. As you can see, I have signals on there. They're BLMA, Union Switch and Signal Company. I've got the signals, I've got JMRI loaded onto the laptop, but I don't have the SEC8 control signals or the BD4 for block detection yet. I put in an order for that, so I don't know when it's going to get here, but hopefully soon, so I can, get it in. Because just as a side note, if I get it soon enough, I'm going to have this lay on a public display at my church's harvest party. So I just figured, that'd be something pretty cool to have, a working signal system. So that's pretty much it for control. With signals, obviously comes a Loco net, and I'm also going to have an accessory decoder for the lights, and that'll be run off of Woodland Scenic's just plug lighting system. So that's pretty much it for control. First, track work. All the flex track, well, there is no sectional track on this layout, not one little piece. Obviously, as you might be able to tell, it's all code A3, except for 1 or 2 turnouts. A code 100 number 4 left, and an old Bachman easy track turnout that I probably should have put in there. They'll eventually get replaced with Atlas number 4s. Well, an Atlas number 4 to replace the middle one right there, and then a number 5 to replace that one. But main line is laid on HO scale court. The signs are laid on N scale. HO, N, and there's the ramp in transition. And then, as you can tell, sidings, yard, and secondary tracks, other than sidings, are laid directly on the phone. Track closest to us is an industrial spur. The 3 behind that are classification. Well, the 4 behind that are classification. But the 2 are used for freight cars. The 3rd is used for MAL, maintenance of way equipment. And then the 4th is storage spot for a passenger car. And that is part of the operations. And cabooses are also stored on the 3rd track, 4th track, right there. Same place as the maintenance of way equipment. So, the turnouts, like I said, the number 4s are Atlas, and then all the others are Walthers. So, they're pretty good. I like them a lot. And just a real quick side note, I found that any turnout larger than a 5, if you're going to run sound, and especially more so if you're not, any decoders don't have any capacitors or any means of storing some current, you need to power the frogs. But especially when you get into big curved turnouts like, number 6, number 7, number 8, then you just need it regardless, because even sound locomotives will have a hard time on those. But it's not all in yet. I've got the rest of this spur to come over this direction, and as I mentioned earlier, that'll be replaced with number 5. It'll come through our hill, our tunnel, past our backdrop, which you can see I've cut out a trough for, around. I'll have an air curve turnout here, and then where this green is, that's roughly where the track's going to go. So I'll have 2, and then I'll have, sorry for the mess, I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, that circle. I'll have a 90-foot Walters turntable right there, the roundhouse will be there, and then this side, in the turntable, just over here, will be locomotive service, coal tower, water tower, diesel servicing facility, sand drop-off. And then the coal and water tower will have working chutes to actually lower. All mainline turnouts have tortoises because it's CTC. Theirs will be use Caboose Industries ground throw, the high switch stands that actually rotate, and then all my frogs are powered by a Hex frog juicer. So that's track. A little bit on control, should have mentioned that earlier. But, oh, almost forgot. And then, of course, the engine terminal will be code 70, and the turntable will be code A3. But it'll be Walters, so it'll be DCC controlled, and hopefully I'll be able to get an accessory decoder so I can interface it with the JMRI. So that's as far as track. Just real quick, the way I wire my turnouts, and I found this eliminates virtually every problem as far as the track is concerned. I've been having trouble with stalling locomotives, but I found out that's the locomotive, it's not the track. So just real quick, the only surface that does not have a feeder on it, connected to it on my turnouts, are the points. Everything else. The frog is isolated, connected to the frog juicer, which is an auto reversing circuit. This rail, all these rails have feeders. So I got one for this rail, one for this rail, feeder for these two sections, and feeders for these two. So the result, as you'll see when I post some running videos, is a very, very smooth operation. And locomotives that don't have capacitors, which I've been able to test frequently, have no problem with it whatsoever. So I do that for all my turnouts, and it works extremely well. Extremely well. And I also solder all my rail joiners. Obviously you can't solder the insulated ones, but so that's how I do it. Another quick note, I also want to add, just for everybody in general, but especially Railfan 220 if you're watching this, I added my insulated rail joiners for the detection sections as I was doing the track. And I planned it out, I thought, okay, this is what I know about how signals really work. And I went online, did some research about how they set up blocks, and I thought about, okay, what are my movements going to be through these sections? And that determined, where to put my insulated rail joiners. I only did it on one rail. One rail's gapped, the other rail isn't, and it's called common. A couple places I put feeders on both. I didn't have to, but I did. And then just also, for everyone in general, but especially for Railfan 220, just real quick, all feeders go back to a set of terminal blocks, which I've temporarily strung together so power gets to the whole layout. And then when I get the BD4s in, from there they'll go to the BD4s, and then a 10-wire ribbon cable to the SCC8, and then of course the LocoNet cable from the SCC8 to JMRI. It'll be a little different for you if you do signals, but I just wanted to throw that in there real quick. And the final thing I'm going to throw in here real quick, just in case you haven't read it in my comment yet, but do not solder feeders on the inside of the rail. I did that on this whole back section of flex track, the whole thing, and the first time I ran an F locomotive over it that was doing fine, it started stalling, so I gave it a closer look, and the connection was actually pushing the wheels up, so they were losing electrical contact. So I had to rip out the whole section and redo it. So don't put the feeders on the inside of the rail. So part 2 is coming up next, and it's going to be future plans.